Welcome to the Cable Club. We're a retro video gaming podcast where three guys eat tons of garlic, and we're linking up to talk about the games you love and rank them. But not this time. This is episode number 42. We're your hosts. I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Don.
And we're here without a guest. This week's episode will be talking all about Castlevania. So get ready to upload data from us to you. But first, question of the week.
Question of the week. So I think Dawn pitched this question, actually. Dawn, your question was, do you think expansive RPGs benefit from being easier as opposed to more difficult? What do you think?
So this was born from my frustration of playing Diablo for last episode. But then I also saw a video of someone else saying that they were playing a Final Fantasy X mod that made the game like 5 times harder. And I was thinking to myself, because I've played Final Fantasy X a lot, why would you ever want that? Why would you ever want a game over and then have to go play hours of gameplay and a half an hour cutscene to get back to the point where you failed just to try again something else?
Yeah, I think it's for like people who like really enjoy, a particular game.
Yeah, but like in general, RPGs, I think themselves drive you by the story, right? And just their overall pacing and the characters. And so therefore, I think they shouldn't be brain dead, right? Like you should be able to get punished for, not paying attention, right? But for the most part, I think the challenge should be relatively light. So you can progress the story, progress your character levels, and, feel like you're getting there,
Yeah, so for me, like if there's a difficulty slider, I typically go for, the hardest setting. It's usually like normal or hard. Some games even go like beyond that. But I have like a certain like threshold. Like I will try like the hardest difficulty, but if it just becomes like an HP sponge and like doesn't really like involve more skill, it just takes longer, then I'll probably just forego it. But usually like sometimes when enemies hit harder and like they take a bit longer to kill, so you usually got to like strategize more, and it uses a bit more thinking to like, okay, this guy's actually hitting me a lot harder, so like I might have to heal this round and then see if I can eke out damage the next round. It just sometimes it just uses a little more brain power, and that's what I do like when it comes to like the difficulty.
Yeah, so difficulty for RPGs for me, it 100% depends on the complexity of the game. Because if the game has lots of options and they're meaningful with more difficult challenges, then that's great. But if the game ends up being a lot more of a like Final Fantasy VII, where you just attack every round, like then it just becomes really boring and tedious. So like if there's lots of options where you can prioritize rounds in defending your characters and bolstering their survivability, and then you have turns where you have to attack, or like it's really a fluid gameplay, then higher difficulty is great. So for me, it 100% depends on the game and the systems that game has in place.
Yeah, so like Sea of Stars has a really great system they call lock picking. And basically it's enemies in a fight, even just trash mobs, not just bosses, will like spawn these symbols above them for your reference as a player. And then each of your 5 characters, because you can switch them in and out at will, has different elements and attributes. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there's like, I don't know, I think there's like 7 or 8 different attributes. And depending on which characters you're using, they can pick these locks. So if, let's say a fire lock shows up, you have to hit that enemy with a fire ability to pick its lock. And when you do that, you stun it, right? The game is not hard, but it adds a puzzle element to it. And you're punished pretty bad when you don't pick the locks. Like if you just ignore the locks, you're probably going to get like completely bodied.
Feels
right?
kind of gimmicky.
It does, but the locks are random, and the enemies don't always do the same locks for the same attacks. And characters, instead of taking one turn, can combine turns like in Chrono Trigger with another character to do a team attack to pick multiple locks at once, and you can feel really smart when you do that. Right? Because sometimes it's one lock, like, oh, just hit it with one fire attack. But sometimes it's like this boss is really gonna blow you up, and then it's like 7 locks. Like, and you need to figure out how to accomplish all that before the boss's next turn, and he goes off on you, right?
Yeah,
So
Octopath Traveler does the same thing.
yeah, so again, it's not difficult, but it's something to keep you awake, right? While you're playing, you're not just hitting attack.
Yeah,
So
generally I think like as far as difficulty goes, if it increases the complexity of the strategy, then it's great. If it's
Right.
just going to increase the stats of the boss, like generally not as fun, not as exciting.
Yeah. So a good example of a bad way to do it is Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So they have a difficulty slider, and if you ramp it all the way up, it is almost impossible to kill anything. Like you're literally like swinging at a rat for like 10 minutes. And I'm not even joking. Like it's so broken in a bad way that like that's not what I like. We're just sitting there just wailing on something for 10 minutes. It's just not okay.
It's just not fun.
Yeah. And then the Tail series are kind of bad with that too. Their hardest difficulties, it turns like a 2 minute battle into like a 10 minute battle, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, you don't have to go all the way to the hardest difficulty, but like, I just, it's like, why is it even there at that point? That's just tedious.
yeah, I feel like they need to have a separate ability, and that goes for all games. I don't think games in general should increase their difficulty just by giving higher HP.
Right.
But like, you know, I'm also talking exclusively about RPGs for this. Like, I'm fine with a hard platformer.
Yeah.
I get the appeal. That's different. But like RPGs in general, I don't feel like they benefit from being more difficult.
Yeah, it's like what Steve was saying. There's a fine line. If it adds more to like strategizing and complexity, then I'm all for it. But other than that, no.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just traditional turn-based RPGs, action RPGs, however, if like the enemies get new moves and things, that's what I mean. Like, it's much more complex and adds extra layers.
Yeah. And we had a couple of answers right in this week too about it, including Hux. But he referenced Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man, so two much more contemporary examples. And I don't even know if Spider-Man would be an RPG. Steve, you played that one, right?
Yeah, you have skill trees, but you can level everything over time, so it's more just like a progression system of your character. Like it's not really an RPG.
Yeah, he likes it because he likes a moderate difficulty in that game because deaths don't set him back too far, and I think that's part of it. Like as I get older, I enjoy games that respawn you right where you died, and you have infinite lives, like as opposed to a game over that sends you back to the beginning.
Not a teenager with like unlimited
Yeah.
weekend potential.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we've kind of evolved in that way. And then we had Relica write in, and she said there has to be a balance, especially in games like MMOs, where there's a grind to get and enhance items. You're always going to have your top 5% of players that will grind to be hardcore, and there will never be enough challenge for them. But the vast majority of player base is the casual category, and the game has to be accessible for them to keep them interested. Yeah, I think I more or less agree with that too, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, right? Is that accessibility thing is important to me as an aging gamer.
Yeah.
So
I think, as time goes on too, we're just taking out a lot of the fluff that like doesn't necessarily have to be in games anymore. Because like, what is it accomplishing running back to the same spot you died? It's just a time waster.
Yeah, I like when they get removed the cutscenes that they allow you to not have to watch the same cutscene over and over again.
Yeah.
I hate that.
remember Square Enix was so infamous for that.
Ugh.
You could never skip them.
Well,
Like
some games you
you
could
died to a
lift the
boss.
CD, you could lift
Yeah.
the cover over the CD, and it would skip the.
Yeah. Wasn't that like a Stratton 9 to get the Excalibur 2?
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's insane. What a time to grow up. And then yeah, so good discussion around that question. And then I just had some announcements, which is pretty much just pertains to this episode. So, this is it. Here we are weekly. So every other week, we're going to do an episode that's off from the league. And this is such an off episode, our first ever off episode of that. There's other things in the gaming sphere that we want to talk about other than the league, and plus we think being weekly will be much more fun for you, the listeners, too. So here we are. Enjoy as we talk about Castlevania. Speaking of which, you guys, I'm not quite in the mood to talk about Castlevania yet, Steve. Can you fix that for me?
Oh, you want me
Big
to
boy?
set the mood?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
just like that. I love the deep growl.
With your vampire killer held tightly, you run up the spiraling stone staircase up to the final castle keep. What a terrible night to have a curse, you mutter to yourself, reminiscing about the night you just had, thinking of all the techniques you've studied your whole life which have led you up to this point. You are a skilled craftsman of destruction against the soldiers of hell. No matter the obstacle, skeletons, demons, succubus, werewolves, any other creatures of the night had better beware, because you aren't just a man, you're a Belmont. You've bested all manner of traps and tribulations that this castle has set forth for you with prowess and grace. The soul of your dearly departed relatives lives in your trusty whip. Holy water at the ready as you reach the final step. You hear the grim laughter of the final opponent this night. As you look down the hallway, your eyes are locked upon the master of the castle. Your final obstacle lies waiting for you, Lord Dracula.
So specifically, I did want to talk a lot about the recent Castlevania Netflix series, Castlevania Nocturne, which finished its second season this year. I wanted to talk about it a lot sooner than this, but nonetheless, I wanted to geek out about it with you guys because, we basically forced Dan to ingest the
Oh,
entire
I
series
know.
in a 2-week period for an episode that we didn't do. So,
Yeah.
but I figured it's so rare to find something gaming wise that all three of us have done these days. So I just couldn't pass the opportunity up. But I didn't get into Castlevania until 2023. I played Aria of Sorrow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, I played Simon's Quest all when I was like 7 or 8, something like that.
One of my first memories of gaming is Simon's Quest. And it's like small, little, tiny personal story. Um, my aunt owned a bakery, and upstairs in the bakery they had a TV and an NES. And I remember vividly, I was probably 4. I wasn't even in grade school. I wasn't even in kindergarten. I might have been 3. My older cousins were playing Simon's Quest, and the only reason that I knew what it was is because in freshman year of high school, we all have a mutual friend. His name is Mike, and he had some video game music on a CD, and he was letting me listen into, and Bloody Tears had come on, and it just a memory, like just a vivid memory of that song. And I was like, "What is this from?" And he's like, "That's Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest." And I knew it from when I was just a child. So brought me back, and since then, freshman year of high school, I just delved into Castlevania so deeply.
It's got, just as a series, I think maybe a top contender for video game music ever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For original compositions.
Yeah, like Vampire Killer. Oh, Chef's Kiss. So good. Bloody Tears, like Steve said. Another great one.
Yeah, like all the Belmonts have cool themes, and
Oh yeah.
We talked a little bit about Symphony of the Night music and Castlevania music last year, but it's hard to describe. If you are interested in video game music and you like a gothic style sound, lots of church organs or guitars, or kind of that mix, then definitely look up some Castlevania music. You will be very happily surprised, or however
Well,
you want to put it.
yeah, there's tons of covers of it too, like metal covers and stuff. But the Netflix series really kind of got me curious about the series and wanting to kind of dive in. Well, Well, so I said Aria of Sorrow was my first Castlevania. That's technically not true. I played, like, after watching the Netflix series, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I played and beat the NES Castlevania one, which was a treat, right? But like, as I've played a few of them now and just really gotten into it, because this is one of the rare gaming things that my wife is into, that we watch the Castlevania series together. She loves it.
Really, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, and watching that first series and knowing what I know now about those early games, like, I cannot believe how much crap that they crammed into the show that is from the games. Like, almost all the major characters and the span of games. So like, the first series centers a lot around Castlevania 3. Did you guys ever like beat that one?
I've played it. I've never beat it, but I know
That
you can
game
play.
is hard.
Yeah, you can
Yeah, I
play
mean,
three
my
different
understanding is it's
characters.
hard. Yeah.
I tried to do a Trevor only run, and I hit a level that was just like insane.
Actually, it's 4 characters, Dan.
It's four.
Grant, the
Oh,
the
Grant. So
the guy who crawls around,
okay,
he's the
I
only one that
gotcha.
didn't make it into the series for some reason.
Yeah,
Still no
he was like a
representation.
throwaway character. He like even in the series in the video games, you like never really hear about him ever.
I thought what you said. There's 4 characters.
Well,
Yeah, so there's
Alucard,
Trevor.
Sypha,
Yep.
uh,
Sypha's in it too.
yeah.
Oh, I think it depends on the
Grant.
paths you take, right?
Yes. Yep.
So when I've played 3, I only got Alucard and Grant. So
But like, they fully flesh these characters out in the show, and it's funny that like Sypha and Trevor end up as love interests, because if you do finish the game with Sypha, you find out Metroid style that she's female, because she has like a hood thing up
Yeah.
and she's like a mage. So you could go through that whole game because it's NES graphics, thinking she's a dude, and not actually figure that out. And then he like puts his arm around her, and that's like the extent of the love story in the NES cartridge. But like, it's something. Um, and that's just an example. But there are characters like Saint Germain in the first series that go all the way up to the PlayStation 2 games. Like, he's a time traveling wizard in one of the PlayStation 2 games.
that would have to be
One,
Curse of Darkness because he isn't in Lament of Innocence.
no, that name does not sound familiar to me.
Yeah, I think it is. In the series, he's the one that resummons Dracula.
In Curse of Darkness, you play as a Forge Master.
Yeah, Hector.
Yep.
Yeah, who's one of the Forge Masters in the show.
Yeah.
So
I only played a little bit of that one.
Yeah, same. I played it with you actually, Steve. The little
Yeah,
bit
I
that
don't
we did
remember.
play.
Something happened. Like life got busy. You know how it does.
Yeah,
I kind of want to go back and play it because
same.
everybody likes it, and I just haven't finished it.
I think Isaac is the antagonist in that game, or one of them too.
Yeah, and he's another
be.
Forge Master, right?
Yeah, he's, as it turns out, I would argue the more protagonist of the 2 Forge Masters in the show. But
Yeah, he's a beast in the show.
yeah,
like-
he's not playing around.
He was like taking on like Carmella with his like army of minions.
He's the necromancer.
And he fights the what's it called, Legion, or the Grand Falloon in Symphony of the Night, the big corpse monster.
Yeah.
It's all like the
Yeah.
ball of corpses.
Yeah, that's such a cool Easter egg. The show
Yeah.
did a lot of that, which is pretty neat. I'm pretty sure the directors came out and stated, they took like obviously tons of inspiration from the game specifically, so that there would be a lot of like aha moments and a lot of like, oh, I know that, for all the people that played the games. So,
Which is good, it's like that's how I feel like it should be. And the fact that like if you watch the anime first and then you wanting to play the games after, you see a lot of similarities, and I feel like that's great when you go back and play those games and you see like, oh wow, this was in the anime and so was that and so was this.
yeah, how many times do you go and watch a movie like the Resident Evil movie, the first one, and go like, there's like 2 things in this movie that remind me of the game.
Yeah,
How about
zombies.
how about the original Final Fantasy movie? Do you
Yeah.
remember that one?
Oh,
Like all the
God.
guys with the
Spirit
guns and the
within.
spirits and everything.
That's what I
Oh,
mean. Like nobody
You're like,
wants
what is
that.
this?
no good.
No, but they really hit it home with that, and go. That's the world that I'm living in right now. As I go back and revisit these games and seeing all these characters and being like, oh my god, it's that guy.
Yeah,
Who knew
right.
he was even significant? Like,
Yeah, I would say I didn't really get big into Castlevania until later. Like, yeah, I did play it when I was younger, but like I wasn't really a fan back then. It was just the game that I had. I didn't really like get invested until like the Metroidvanias came out. So like the very first Metroidvania I played was Circle of the Moon on the GBA, and I absolutely fell in love with that game. And then one of our, close friends from middle school, Matt, he had Cynthia the Night, and I saw him playing it over my house one day, and I was like, "Oh my god, this just looks like the game that I played, just like with just better graphics and stuff and better music." And I was like, I need to play this." And so like I kept hounding him to borrow it until he finally gave in, because I just wanted to play it so bad, because it reminded me so much of that GBA game that I was just like, I need to play it. And it was, oh god, it was like
magical,
it was magical. Yeah, I
magical.
can't even put it into words. So it was like the game
And
was so good.
like these characters have gone through different iterations. Like Alucard didn't always look the way he did in Symphony of the Night, and Since doesn't really look the same. But I love that they went with that look in the show.
Yeah.
And just generally speaking, they went with that look for all the characters in the show. Like they really chose that Symphony of the Night, which is the one thing they took away from the games that I find most interesting is that original Castlevania feel of it's Dracula, Dracula's the bad guy, Dracula's, doing Dracula things, right? And there was a departure in the Castlevania series toward the end of the new games, right, where they did the whole Lords of Shadow
Right.
thing, right? And I don't know, Steve, you're more up to date on that than I am, but like my understanding is Dracula is handled vastly different
Yeah,
in that
so
series of games.
okay, so in the Lords of Shadow series, you play as Gabriel Belmont, who's the first of his line, or the first notable of his line, and he ends up going on this long quest to try and save his wife. And throughout his quest, he has to fight these lords who used to be like angelical lords that people would worship, but now they've turned to hell's side, and they're the three lords of shadow. And to defeat them, he has to, sacrifice parts of himself to become powerful enough, and he has to lean into the shadow and the light sides. And in the DLC of that first game, he ends up selling his soul for vampirism to save whatever. He has to fight some secret boss, and there's like a little bit of extra story in that. So he ends up becoming Lord Dracula, and he is a Belmont. And he has a son, and it's Alucard. And I'm pretty sure Alucard's a bad guy in that story. It's been a while, but he's like
He's
Satan.
Trevor, and Trevor. There's a 3DS game where you play as Trevor
No, you play
and you go
Simon
through
in
the
that.
Simon.
castle.
It's Simon, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you play as Simon. You go through the castle and you fight Dracula and lose. You fight the Dracula from the original Lords of the Shadow game. And then Dracula figures out, because he has his mother's pendant, that he's his son. And Dracula realizes that he's, fighting his own
Right, and he
bloodline and brings
saves
him
him
back to
by
life. He
turning.
saves him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Alucard, so there's the head of the, because there's like a betrayal with Gabriel. His like order betrays him. Like they turn
Yeah.
out to be all Satanist cults or something. Like I don't know
Well,
exactly.
the leader is actually Death,
Yeah,
and Death
yeah.
wants control over everything.
So Alucard plots to get this guy, because this guy's basically untouchable, and he sticks a sword into Dracula's heart that basically puts him to sleep, but everybody thinks he's dead. So Alucard wakes him up like way in the future. These games get wild, right? And I think it
Yeah.
was like a means for them to like depart the series from like, oh, Sigma did it again, or Robotnik did it again, or Bowser did it again, right? Like they were just trying to do something new.
Yeah.
But to full circle back on the Netflix show, They were like, yeah, screw that. We're going back to the Dracula is the bad guy, and we're just going to flesh out what's there.
Well,
Like,
in a way, though, like, he was a good guy
Yeah,
until they killed.
killed his wife
Yeah,
because the way that they saw it, that the humans, that she was hanging out with Dracula because she saw some good in Dracula, and eventually, because I don't know what he was doing before, because he was a vampire,
he was just being a vampire. He just wasn't murdering an entire
right?
countryside.
And people were afraid of him, but
well,
like
he was
this,
studying science and medicine and helping her cure things with like antibiotics and like giving her secrets of hell to heal.
right? But
I
then,
think they gave you enough to tell you that he was picking the occasional person off to feed
yeah,
off
he
of,
could have been.
and he
Listen, you
kept all
can
the other
lose a pint of
vampires in
blood
line.
with no problem.
Well, he was permitting the other vampires to hunt, just not too much, right?
Right.
Like he was the gang boss, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
but now we're getting into what's right versus what's wrong. He is also a creature on Earth. If we had a natural predator, would we consider that evil?
yeah, not evil, but not good for humanity,
Well, no, but
right?
I mean,
And we used to have natural predators.
yeah. Now we have guns.
Now we have Zeus.
Yeah.
Dracula, beware! We have the semi-automatic.
But anyways, the humans caught wind that she was was hanging out with Dracula at Dracula's castle, so they, labeled her as a witch and burned her at the stake. And I don't know where Dracula was at that point in time.
I don't know,
Like I
but
don't
he's
know,
triggered now.
I don't know why he didn't save her, but he didn't, and he found out that
Because she asked not to. She told him not to. She said, "Don't do it. Don't do it." Like they don't know what they're doing. Like they're just scared. Don't kill them all. But he definitely was going to kill them all.
but like
Then
She forgave him in the end. No big deal.
but like Dracula already didn't like humans to begin with, but he was tolerating them like even more so because of this woman.
Who
And
does?
then
Who does like humans?
who does like
Humans.
humans, and then once he found out
Sometimes.
that she was burned at the stake, like all bets were off, and they started this big war with humans against Dracula.
Hold on. He gave him a year to get out. He did.
Oh yeah, he did.
And instead they threw a party on the day that they killed her. And I think any of us uh, would handle the situation similarly.
I'm drawing a blank on her name. What's her name? Do you guys remember?
Sarah?
Was it Sarah?
Mm,
I have to look it up real quick.
Lisa.
Lisa, that's what it was. Okay.
it's been a while. Although I will say that I I think as decent as Nocturne is, I think that the first series is just a lot better. That's
Yeah,
just my personal
I
opinion.
enjoyed it a little more. To me, it was a little more true to the games. I think
Yeah.
with Nocturne, it's still kind of true to the games, but they kind of veered off a little bit.
So, have you guys ever played Castlevania Bloodlines
Yeah, I have.
for the
That's the
for the
Genesis?
for the Genesis? Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I was thinking of X. Sorry.
No. So,
Yeah, Bloodlines. You don't even play as a Bellman. You play as like a John Morris or something, or whatever his
right.
name is.
But Elizabeth Bathory is Dracula's sister or niece or something like that, but she's related and she's a real life female historical serial killer. And the whole game is going after her. And Drolta, her little like lackey in the show, is actually the witch that makes her into the immortal vampire in the game. So a lot of that stuff that doesn't follow the game that's in there, like yeah, Dracula's dead, and in this show we kind of have to come to grips with Dracula's not a mindless monster, and he's with his wife and he's dead and he wants to stay dead, right? So they needed to give us a new big bad, but they took it all from this Bloodlines game, which I thought was so cool because nobody talks about Bloodlines. Like it was the Genesis bastard child of the series.
It's like a
Right.
$200 Genesis game.
Yeah, it's super expensive. I don't even know if I have the Castlevania
My
collection
grandfather had that
for
game.
Switch. I'm looking at.
Oh,
Yeah, you better go check
I don't
it out.
know.
Dan.
I have no idea where it is now
He's
because
got a
he
storage
moved and
unit.
whatnot. So it's like, if for all I know, it's probably gone. Ugh.
Sold it at a yard sale for
Yeah.
$5.
No. Oh, speaking of that, probably about like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I stopped at a little pawn shop on my way into Laconia, New Hampshire, and they had Symphony of the Night. Guess how much I bought it for? It was a $50 game at the time.
How much?
I
20
wanted you
15?
to guess.
$20.
15?
$5.
$1.
Oh, nice.
It
Nice
was a
steal.
steal, dude.
It's still kind of expensive. I think it's like a $70.
Yeah, it's 70 or 80
PlayStation
bucks
1 game.
now.
Yeah.
Why isn't Symphony of the Night on like more platforms by now? They got
It's
like they
on the
made
PlayStation
dude,
Store.
they've made it for like all the like remakes and stuff on Steam. Like I don't know
It's on
why
the PlayStation
they
Store,
they
Dan.
won't pull the trigger on Symphony of the Night, and it's making me so mad.
You just want it on Steam. You
It-
just want it on Steam. It's
Yeah,
not
a
there.
PC port. Come on, make it happen.
Okay. Now
Pierce
we're at the bottom
XMU.
of it.
Ugh.
But so the Nocturne series, the first Castlevania season, I watched it because it's Castlevania and I wanted to know, right? But I didn't think it was really that great. It really started to pick up. I think it was season 2 or 3 where they actually went after and fought Dracula. Like, and that's when I started to get attached to the characters. But I feel like Nocturne was really good about the character development from the outset, with like Richter, his mom, his whole reason for being Maria. Like,
Yeah,
you got a good sense of who they were, and Maria's mom.
they kind of like made Richter like into like a magey type. Well, at least near the end of the anime they did.
Yeah,
'Cause it was
unlocked
like
his magic.
Yeah, like in the games, he wasn't really all about magic. He just had like his tools and his whip and whatnot. But like this, he can like sling like fireballs, and he has like fire fist that he does like fighting techniques with. It was a little weird, but like I got used to it as like as the show progressed. But like there's like little things like that they they kind of like made a little bit different.
Well, Richter was able to do like in the Dracula X game. Was he able to do like the Grand Cross and the Hydrostorm and all that stuff?
Yeah, but in my mind, at least as a kid, I didn't really think of that as like magic, I guess.
Yeah, but that was new to the series, right? You weren't able to do that in previous games, I don't think, were you?
You can do it in Symphony of the Night too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Dracula X came out first. That's the Super Nintendo one.
I
Yeah.
don't know which one was first, but
No, that one was first, Dracula X.
so the thing about the Belmonts is that every generation of Belmont gets stronger because they natural selection breed with powerful mages, and so like they get more ability the further it goes down, and eventually the Belmont like clan just disappears, and that's where like what was his name, John Morris, he
Yeah, he
takes
takes.
the vampire killer and takes care of business because there's no Belmonts.
Yeah, but like
um,
the caveat to that is if a non-Belmont wields the whip, it like takes a little part of their. I'm not.
Drains their life.
Yeah, it either drains their life or takes a part of their soul, something like that. But yeah, they can't use it for free like the Belmonts.
So John Morris is actually the name of the main character in the Dracula novel, like the original Bram Stoker Dracula novel. And I think that was the inspiration for the Genesis Castlevania game. They were just like, all right, we're going to bring the Bram Stoker novel into the mythos. So I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, I've never read the Dracula novel, but I'm assuming that John Morris doesn't run around with a whip punching vampires.
Yeah, probably not. So in one of the cool things is that in Lament of Innocence on the PS2, you play as Leon Belmont, and this is the first like lore of the vampire killer. So you have a whip, and eventually, I think it gets powered up throughout the game, but kind of near the end, your wife gets murdered, and he takes her soul because she wants him to. He needs it, and puts it into the whip so that it can defeat Matthias, who is death.
Right, and
And
that's how
so-
it becomes the vampire killer.
Yes, the first Belmont in the line, Leon Belmont, like he is the OG in the Castlevania lore, gets the vampire killer, and it's his dead wife's soul which slays the monsters of the night. It's so cool.
Yeah,
It is neat. And you get a little bit of that in Nocturne, where they talk about the lineage. Nocturne takes place like I think like 1,000 years later than the first series, and you get like Juste Belmont, which I thought was really cool
Yeah, so
to
that
see in there.
I'm glad that they added him in there because it made because he was like in the games he was really magic adept,
Definitely a mage.
and
Yeah.
so like having him in the anime like really like solidified like where like Richter was magic inclined and stuff and like that, and it made a lot of sense to me that he was in there. I really like Juiced, even though the game I feel like wasn't that great, but like I like the concept of him.
And that brought the advanced game into the like if you're listening to this conversation and keeping count, look at how many games are in this animated
It's
series.
probably like, oh, in the animated series, yeah, it probably references like 10 games, but there's like 30 Castlevania games.
Yeah, but I mean, how many more seasons until we get there, right? And we're definitely going toward a Symphony of the Night direction, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they'll add. I
Toward
wonder
the
if
end of the
they'll add
series.
Soma and all that.
Well, so yeah, hold on, right? So Alucard goes away after a time. He spends like X generations with the Belmonts and checks in once in a while, and they know him as Weird Uncle Alucard, who shows up once in a while, right? But he's away for most of trying to think of his name now, Richter's life, and Richter's like, oh, where did you go, right? And he's like, I was in Japan mostly,
Mhm.
right? He brought that
Oh,
up,
yeah, because that's
right? Which is
where Soma takes place. Yeah,
and I think Aria of Sorrow is one of the coolest rebirths of Dracula,
yeah.
like
It's just like kind
out
of
of
like a
all
high
the
school
games.
kid, right? Does
Yeah.
just doing high school kid things, and then he realizes like, oh, hey, I might be the incarnate of Dracula.
Doing high school things? You mean like running around in a big maze-like castle
It's
killing
like
monsters? And
it's like
Well,
all
yeah,
those
that was after he figured all that out.
it's like all those manga titles. I woke up as a blood-sucking vampire. Like you know what I'm talking about? How they
yeah,
have all those crazy names for mangas now. That time I woke up as a monster of the night.
Yeah, but like as far as Alucard goes, I think he kind of like stays in the shadows unless he's like really needed.
Yeah,
Like,
because he hates himself. He hates vampires. So
well, that and it's just like if Cynthia the Night, the only reason why he came out of hiding was, or hibernation, so to speak, was because Richter failed, essentially. He got mind controlled, and no one could stop Dracula at
by
that point.
Shaft.
He got shafted by Shaft.
yeah. So, do you guys think the Shaft is coming? Because is that who Coyote is? Right, the guy that Olrox keeps calling Coyote. Right, there's like that weird shadowy figure throughout the
Oh yeah,
second
No,
I
season.
know what you're
I
talking
That
about.
thing he calls him
my
Mr. Coyote or something.
my feeling was that that's the devil.
You think so?
That's how it felt to me, but I
So
don't
like
know.
I went and looked that up, and that's a real like South American thing, Mr. Coyote, and he's different forms. A lot of direct translations just call him Death, but we've already seen Death, so I don't know. Like, but we know that in Symphony of the Night, Richter's possessed, right? Like, so could this person be that entity? I wonder that's going to send Richter over, and then we're going to get like a Symphony of the Night like
Yeah,
series to
possibly.
finish out
Well,
Nocturne.
that would be sick. Like a whole
It would be. I'm
like a
really
whole
excited.
anime like focused on Alucard. I'd
Yeah,
be
but the
on board for
castle
that.
has to be upside down the whole time.
Ugh.
I wonder how they will handle that. If there's just a point where the castle teleports and it's upside down for like a good portion of the
I
last fight
wouldn't
or
be
something.
surprised if they just scrap that for the anime.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sure.
yeah.
How do you guys feel about the whole like African section of like magic and like the dream world and all that? I forget the character,
And
her
that,
name. Annette. Yeah. How do you guys feel about all that? If I felt like it kind of takes away, but then near the end it kind of brought it back in. So I'm a little
yeah.
bit
Well,
torn
they
on it.
made her into like a like way more than she was in the games.
Yeah.
Oh, she was just helpless, and I think she was canonically Richter's love interest, and then Maria was. I don't know if
Alucard's.
she's actually her sister or what in the Dracula X game, but like she gets like you can play as Maria in Dracula X, but if you don't, you like have to go down a secret path and like save her as Richter, and then you can save Annette too. but it's this really like big fancy chain of events that you have to like go out of your way to do.
Yeah, they
And
took a
it's
lot
how
of
you get
liberties
the good ending.
with that character.
Yeah, and I think with what they did with Urzabet, I think it was necessary. Like when they were like, "Oh, she has, the blood of a god." And then you had to like kind of come to grips with the fact that in Castlevania in this series the gods are real, right? But I guess why not? But and it's an Egyptian god, which also is not new to the Castlevania games, right? Because there's first of all, there's the mummy in like the early
The
games.
first game, yeah.
Uh and then much later on, there's that. I'm trying to think of his name. He's in Symphony of the Night. He's the lightning guy,
Oh, I know.
Oh,
the really big guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
he's like the
about.
hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, and he's. I think his name is actually an Egyptian creature or deity, but he is also reminiscent of that like Egyptian background, right?
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot going on behind the scenes in the games that aren't like really explained in the games. And I'm not sure how they like conveyed all of the information. I don't know if it was in the guidebooks or in the manuals and all that, but they took a lot of inspiration in the games from all over the world. Everything that you would consider like creatures of the night or hell or whatever, like all that stuff was on the table for Castlevania for the entirety of the series.
it's like Boo Haunted House, the game.
Yeah,
His name was Galamoth, by the way.
doesn't
Galamoth.
doesn't sound very Egyptian.
Yeah, no. Well, he's and then you get like Medusa, who's like ancient Greece too. Like there's just like
Yeah,
it's kind of all over the place.
monsters.
Hmm.
I mean, the first
Dracula's
game you
just like
can't
king
really
monsters.
like. They just took monsters that they could think Frankenstein.
Yeah,
I mean,
Frankenstein's monster.
it just is what it is. They do have a Frankenstein's monster in Lords of Shadow though, in the castle.
He's kind of a mainstay at this point. He's in Symphony of the Night too.
Yeah,
So he's. We'll probably see him in the anime eventually. I can't wait to see how they shoehorn that in there.
I don't know. So like, I kind of wish they just left all the whole like love stuff out of it. Like, I know it adds dimension, but I just want to see Belmont's killing monsters.
Yeah,
Well, you did say about them, specifically propagating with powerful mages,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, I get it.
And we saw that, so I guess we needed a powerful mage for this, and they picked that Annette character and they gave her a real backstory, but to your point, I thought a lot of the spirit stuff went on way too long.
yeah, so did I, especially at
For
the
some of
end
it.
when she was like
Yeah.
trapped in that spirit world and she had to like fight her way out, and then like Richter's trying to protect her while they're having this big battle go on, and she's like
Yeah,
basically melting because her like body temperature is like sizzling hot, and
he's keeping her
Yeah.
cold with
Yeah.
magic and
yeah,
Yeah, I would have just accepted she got a power upgrade. That would have been good enough for me.
yeah,
And that she was stronger than that deity thought she was. And that would have been just fine. We didn't need the whole fight the weird crocodile beast thing.
yeah, that's what I meant. Like,
Yeah. It
I
was too
just
much.
it was a little much. And then
All right, enough.
at the end, Trolta takes the power.
I kind of wondered the whole time why she didn't in the first place. I'm not going to tell you I saw it coming because I really didn't, but I did wonder, like, how come this priestess wasn't like, well, why not me? Like,
Because she was so
some
devoted to
point.
the idea of the god.
Yeah, it was almost like she was using her, though. I definitely got that feeling maybe about halfway
They're all
in the
villains.
second
I mean,
season
you
when I
kind of
was
just
like, she did get Drolta to be brought back to life, but there definitely was a point where I was like, Drolta kind of feels to me like she's more pulling the strings here.
right.
And
What I also found kind of weird is the character. I don't remember his name, but he's the one that sings. Like it
Oh
just
yeah,
felt
that
kind
got
of
turned into a
awkward.
creature. Yeah, yeah.
and all it amounted to was the uprising of the night creatures, which again, I feel like I could have just accepted. Like I could have had the one singing scene and that showing us that they all kind of still had their humanity left, and I could have just accepted that.
Well, the one scene where
almost had
the female general comes back as the ice nymph or whatever, like that was plenty to show like a little scene with the guy that sings, yeah, and then the general coming back and feeling remorse and sadness for being a night creature now, but she obviously withheld some of her humanity. Like that would have been perfectly enough, but they dragged it on and on and on.
He felt like a throwaway character to me. Like honestly,
Yeah, they never pulled him out of that. I feel
yeah,
like they brought it up like something big was going to happen, and he just, he kind of helped out a little bit, I guess.
yeah.
Like,
I'm drawing a blank. I'm sure that I don't know if I just can't remember it, but Maria's mother, like I remember she got turned into a vampire, but I can't remember what happened to her. Do you guys
that was the
remember?
that was the best part of the whole second season for me. Like this back and forth of she can't trust herself, other people can't trust her, but she's trying, and that whole like inner darkness thing, they do that really well. I
Right.
thought, especially of being a
Do you
vampire.
guys remember what happened to her? I can't see. I'm drawing a blank.
I
She
think she
ran
just ran
away.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. There's
She
nothing.
She's
decided she couldn't be around Maria
Oh, okay. So maybe that's probably why I don't remember because they didn't do much with it.
because, like, I think Just talks to her about it.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, she goes to Europe or
I wouldn't.
England, I
I
mean, or
wouldn't be
whatever.
surprised if they, if they make another series that she comes back as something. I don't know what her role will be, but I wouldn't be surprised if she made a comeback or an appearance.
Yeah, I know she might be in the next season. Who knows? They definitely do take liberties, but I do like that they really kind of rein it back in for the most part.
Yeah.
How about the Maria's dad, the priest? The guy was
Uh,
unhinged.
What an a-hole.
well, he was just trying to do it for the greater good in
Yeah,
his
no.
mind.
Lots of bad things have been done for the greater good. He's a really good example of that.
Yeah, there's got to be a line, and he obviously crossed it.
I know, and they're like, "Oh no, Maria's gonna kill him," and I'm just like, "Let her."
The dragon like almost consumes her.
He's
Yeah,
just like
that was pretty cool.
he's like
Yeah,
your
it was.
typical RPG like antagonist, trying to do stuff for the greater good, but does it in such a way that it's just too evil.
Well, so I don't know why he's doing it at first. And then later on, he's like, I'm doing it so that we have some semblance of bargaining chip against Urzabet because we can't beat her. Right? Okay, so I kind of understood his motivation later. But when he was just doing it for the sake of doing it at the beginning of the series, I was like, yeah, no, I don't really get this guy. Like, he's like, I'm a priest, but I'm consorting with demons. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. The fight scene where they fight Urzabet is one of the best choreographed animated fight scenes I have ever seen.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
And it's like a half an hour long.
Yeah.
It's actually like an episode and a half long.
It's awesome. In fact, it drowns out the fight against Drolta that happens afterwards. But like, man, she just takes punishment so much and dishes it back out. Like, it's just such a good fight between Just and Richter and her.
And Maria.
And like, there's all that like
Alucard was there too, right?
Yeah.
No, he was fighting Drolta.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But wasn't that going on at the same time?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But like the stuff that Richter was doing in the air with the whip, where he'd like grab her, pull himself in, punch her, and then like grab her again, and, like kick flip off of her and stuff. Like it was lit.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the fights in both series were really good. Like, I really, really, really liked Trevor versus Death.
Yeah, well, that was real good.
When he's at that scene, he's just like whipping him, like over and over again. I was like, yeah.
Doesn't he have like magic boots or whatever? He's like running on like a invisible wall and all this stuff. Like, it's all really cool.
Yeah, it's a really good scene.
And the Dracula versus Alucard in season 1.
He like slaps him through a
Dude,
wall.
they're like having a fist fight, and then he like dunks. I don't really remember. But he like dunks Alucard in a barrel or something. And then he has like second thoughts. He's like, "I'm killing my son."
No, he slaps him. He slaps him through several walls, and it turns out he just happens to stop in his childhood room.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it about childhood rooms in this anime?
It's
Maria
a
in
big
her
castle,
room.
you know? It's hard to keep up with. You can't just be renovating rooms all the time. That's all he would do.
Well, he doesn't sleep.
Yeah, but he does science.
But
Oh man, all I'm picturing is like Dracula kicking Alucard's ass, and then he just, you know, you know, pushes him into his room or whatnot, and he steps on a teddy bear and goes, and then that's when he starts having this like flashback.
You get the sense it isn't the first time he whipped his boy around the house. Just saying. Remember that little like Viking vampire who like would come in on occasion and like pester Dracula?
not important
Trying
enough.
to trying to remember his name, but he like was trying to stay off the radar, but he wanted to be really aggressive about feeding, and every time he approached Dracula, Dracula just hated his entire existence.
Which
And he mentioned something to Camilla about him not feeding. He's like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure Dracula hasn't been feeding for a while. I still wouldn't try the old man, but just saying, I think he's a little weaker than he used to be."
My favorite thing, amongst all of the good things about the anime, is the choice of music when they have their big final fights. Because in season one, it was Bloody Tears, and in I'm pretty sure against Death they did Trevor's theme, and then in this one when they went to fight Erzabet, it was Richter's theme.
They're spoiled for choice.
It's just so
And
good.
yeah, and I like how they did the slowed down rendition of Bloody Tears for that like montage fight against all the vampire generals when
Yeah,
they went to go fight Dracula.
it just like shows how adept Sypha was. She like carried that fight.
She is busted.
yeah,
And apparently she's busted in the game relative to the other characters too, so maybe that's where they got that.
it's a little Easter egg maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. But man, nobody kills vampires like Sypha does in the quantity that she does. The ice spears, man.
Yeah.
How do you compete? How do you compete?
Yeah, mages in general are just busted.
She should have fought death. She would have ended that a lot quicker.
well, without any MP.
But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you guys about it because I know you guys also like Castlevania.
Yeah, I love
And
Castlevania.
and this series makes me love it even more.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes me want to see so much more of it.
Yeah, I just wish that they would come out with some more games.
Absolutely. It's just like it's such a shame that like it's just they got such a good universe going with this game, and it's just like it's just sitting there doing nothing, collecting dust. It's sad.
Well, now I feel like they have the ammunition too to carry it forward into a modern era. Like I could see them rebooting the series
A
and giving it that.
reboot.
Yeah, just not going the Lord of Shadows route.
Yeah.
That was a weird angsty time for all of us. You know? But it's interesting to me how it went a separate way, and then they were like, you know what? No, let's go back to the old way. And
It didn't even need to change to begin with. Like I don't get me wrong. Gabriel Belmont's a badass, and I kind of like what they did with him. But like, we didn't even need to go that route. Like, I love the original Belmonts. So
yeah, I thought it was an interesting story. I thought they could have told it a different way, but yeah. It was interesting how Gabriel suddenly becomes the Dracula, and he's now fighting. He's cursed to fight his lineage because the same order that tricked him got his claws into his kids.
What I failed to mention is right before the fight with Death in Lords of Shadow, Gabriel dies, and he's ready. He's like giving his soul to God, and he's saying, I'm ready, Father in heaven, take me. And God said, no, I need you to fight on earth, and doesn't let him reunite with his dead wife and forces him back alive to fight death. And so from that point on, he turns his back on God because God just ruined, everything.
Didn't keep his promise.
Right.
Yeah, basically betrayed him in his eyes.
Yeah. And so he was sent back to Earth. He defeats Death, and then the whole like vampire thing happens, where he needs to be sired into a vampire from, I don't remember her name. She's a little girl vampire.
Camilla.
No, he kills Camilla in that game.
Oh,
it's her ward, a smaller like little girl vampire. She needs help with some beast from hell that's locked up that's going to break free, and the only way he would be powerful enough to beat it is to become a vampire. That's how it happens.
and I know in the first game he just straight up beats up Satan, like lays him out.
Second
Right?
game.
Nope. First game. At the end of the first game, he
He
does,
fights
and
Death. He
then
doesn't fight Satan.
no, he absolutely does fight Satan. And then in the second game, the only reason they're trying to summon Satan again is because Satan thinks he's dead. And then they do summon him again,
I
or
don't remember
the one
Satan at all in the
acolyte.
first game.
Yeah, no, he's in there. And he's all arrogant AF, thinking he's just going to beat this random crusader, and he gets laid out by Gabriel. And then in the second game, the his one apostle that lives and actually manages to summons him like right in front of Dracula. And so he kills his apostle, saying that he hates incompetence, and then like backwardly in a really charismatic way says to Gabriel, we could share this world. Basically saying you don't have to kick my ass again this time. And like everything that happens after that is just Satan fighting for his life. Like he's trying anything he possibly can, including possessing Alucard to try to beat Gabriel. Like, and it is a really cool story, but I don't know. It's not Castlevania to me now.
Yeah.
So
It was just a reboot that didn't need to happen, in my opinion. As cool as it is, it's not as, in my opinion, it's not as cool as the original.
it also turned the game into like a God of War type of a game.
Yeah.
Where
I mean, I guess it all depends on like what you want out of your Castlevania games. Like, because first of all, it started as like a platformer, and then it turned into a Metroidvania, which in my opinion is my favorite type. And then you also got like the Lord of Shadows, which is like you said, like God of War.
the second game in that series, the one for 3DS, is a Metroidvania.
Yeah, I never played it, but yeah, it's like 2D Metroidvania with a 3D look to it.
Yeah, 2.5D that the kids are calling it.
2.5.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to more. Basically, just more Castlevania, and I'm glad we got to geek out about it on this episode.
More games, more anime.
Yeah, just the future is bright, hopefully, for Castlevania.
Hopefully.
So we gushed about this beloved series long enough. Anything else you guys want to say before we call this an episode?
Hydro Storm.
Alucard for life.
Oh yeah, one more thing. I wish they had given Alucard that super deep voice in the anime.
Dark Metamorphosis.
What is a man? So our theme music is unwittingly made by Cubby, and his Bandcamp is in our show notes. And then we are a self-producing, self-editing podcast. Dan does the bulk of our editing. He's awesome. So, maybe he's looking for a side gig. I don't know. Contact him. And we love our Discord community that keeps us going. And that's the reason we do this, and the reason that we have brought this show to weekly and want to talk about more game stuff. Game over, fellas?
Game over.
Game over.